हेलो एवरीबॉडी, अ वेरी वार्म वेलकम टू ऑल ऑफ यू। आप सबका फिर से स्वागत है हमारे चैनल इंडियन मास कम्युनिकेशन में। आई होप यू ऑल आर डूइंग वेल। आप लोग अपने एग्ज़ाम्स की अच्छे से तैयारी कर रहे हैं। दिस वुड बी द लास्ट lecture in this postmortem series, and we are going to solve question number 81 to 90 of the recent question paper December 2024. If you are somebody who is new to our channel, my name is Tushar Goyal. I am a Ph.D. research scholar at Center for Media Studies, JNU. I have qualified JRF, I have qualified several other media related exams. On this channel, you will find more than 250 lectures which are absolutely free and open access for everybody. Do check out our channel and consider subscribing to this channel. And you can also check out our Telegram group, website and application for test series. The links will be in the description box. The very first question of the day: which of these are conventional printing processes? Sound, letterpress, offset, tone, screen. The art of print making. It is one of the oldest information and communication technologies. And every evolution in this print making technique has been bringing some structural changes in the society. Sound is not any kind of printing process. This gets cancelled. Yes, letterpress printing, ये एक रिलीफ प्रिंटिंग का टेक्निक ऑफ प्रिंटिंग है। जिसको हमें प्रिंट करना है उसको हम एक सरफेस पे रेस्ड पैटर्न बना देते हैं स्टैम्प की तरह। ठीक है, जब आप स्टैम्प यूज़ करते हैं सो इट इज़ अ रेस्ड सरफेस। यस, ऑफसेट प्रिंटिंग। जब हम ऑफसेट प्रिंटिंग की बात करते हैं, इसमें जो इंक ट्रांसफ़र करने का प्रोसेस होता है, इट इज़ यूजली थ्रू अ रबर ब्लैंकेट। इसमें जो हम पैटर्न बनाते हैं पहले उसको एक रबर ब्लैंकेट पे ट्रांसफ़र करते हैं और उसके थ्रू हम पेपर पे उस पैटर्न को ट्रांसफ़र करते हैं। यूजली व्हेन वी हैव टू प्रोड्यूस प्रिंट्स इन ऑन अ लार्ज स्केल, फॉर एग्जांपल न्यूज़पेपर प्रेस, इट मेक्स यूजेस ऑफ दिस ऑफसेट प्रिंटिंग। इट इज़ मोस्ट कॉमन कमर्शियल प्रिंटिंग टेक्निक इवन टुडे। और एक PYQ था, उसमें आपसे पूछा हुआ था कौन सी प्रिंटिंग प्रोसेस टेक्निक में they use rubber blanket. So remember this, rubber blanket is used in offset printing. इसमें ना तो सरफेस रेस्ड होता है और ना ही इंटैंगलियो प्रिंट्स की तरह इंस्क्राइब्ड होता है. It is also called plenography. Tone is not any kind of printing process, so this gets cancelled. Yes, screen is also a kind of printing process. अगर आपको स्क्रीन प्रिंटिंग को समझना है तो आप एक स्टेंसिल का एग्जाम्पल लीजिए। बचपन में आपने एक स्टेंसिल ज़रूर यूज़ किया होगा जिसमें गैप्स होते थे ए, और उसके अंदर आप इंक फिल करते थे। उसी तरह से देयर इज़ अ काइंड ऑफ अ मैश स्क्रीन। आपको ये लोगो प्रिंट करना है, यू क्रिएट अ गैप और इसके अंदर आप या तो इंक भर सकते हैं या कोई और मटेरियल यूज़ कर सकते हैं। सो स्क्रीन प्रिंटिंग इज़ अ प्रोसेस वेयर इंक इज़ फोर्स्ड थ्रू अ मैश स्क्रीन ऑन टू अ सरफेस. सो द राइट आंसर वुड बी B, C and E. Learn about it in great detail on our channel. There is a dedicated video on printmaking techniques in which we learn about more than 15 types of printmaking techniques, their history. There is one PYQ test which has all the PYQs which have been asked in last 15 years. The next question on your screen: the Press Council was established by an act of Parliament in 1965, which is absolutely correct. The first president's full name was Justice N. This is absolutely incorrect. So dear students, there is a very major error in this question. The answer given by NTA is N. Rajagopala Iyengar, but the name of the first, not president but it was chairman, was Justice J.R. Mudalkar, not Rajagopala Iyengar. So this question has a factual error, and the current chairperson is Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai as on today, which is 21st May 2025. If you are watching this lecture in future, kindly check for current chairperson of Press Council because it is very commonly asked question in exam. So the right answer as per NTA is ANC, which is Rajagopala Iyengar, but this question is factually incorrect. This question was also claimed. In our test series, there is another important test on Press Council of India as well, which consists of all the PYQs which have been asked from this topic in last 15 years. You can also attempt that test if you wish. Question number 83 on your screen. Arrange the following F numbers in ascending order, beginning with shallow depth of field to higher depth of field. Dear students, again a very standard question. Every year you will find at least 2 to 3 questions from camera, lighting, sound. This can be a really scoring topic for some of you, and for some of you who are not very well versed with production, kindly learn about all these things. It can be really scoring topic for all of you. देखिए पहले बहुत ही आराम से हम इस कॉन्सेप्ट को समझते हैं। अरेंज द फॉलोइंग एफ नंबर इन असेंडिंग ऑर्डर बिगनिंग फ्रॉम शैलो डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड टू हायर डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड। पहले हम समझते हैं ये डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड का क्या कॉन्सेप्ट होता है। जब हम फ़ोटो खिंचवाते हैं तो हम बहुत बारी फोटोग्राफर वाले भैया को कहते हैं कि भैया हमको फोकस में रखिएगा और पीछे बैकग्राउंड ब्लर कर दो। वो ब्लर ही हमारा शैलो डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड होता है। व्हाट इज़ डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड? इट इज़ द रेंज इन योर फोटो दैट अपीयर शार्प एंड फोकस। अब देखिए इस फोटो को, देखिए इस फोटो के अंदर ये एक रेंज है। जो पीछे का बैकग्राउंड है वो पूरा का पूरा आपका ब्लर है। इसमें घास फोकस में है और ये जो सब्जेक्ट है हमारे फोकस में है। इसको हम शैलो डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड कहते हैं, जिसमें हमारी जिस फोटो में हमारी पूरा का पूरा बैकग्राउंड, फोरग्राउंड, मिड ग्राउंड सारी चीज़ें फोकस में होती है, उसको हम डी फोकस कहते हैं, हायर डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड कह लेते हैं। हमसे क्वेश्चन में पूछा है अरेंज द फॉलोइंग एफ नंबर। एफ नंबर क्या होता है? एफ नंबर होता है कैमरे का अपर्चर इन असेंडिंग ऑर्डर बिगनिंग विद शैलो डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड टू हायर डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड। ये आपसे पूछना चाहते हैं कि जो कैमरे का अपर्चर होता है, जो उसकी ओपनिंग होती है जिसमें लाइट जाती है, उसके एफ स्टॉप को आप शैलो डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड से डी फोकस या हायर डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड में सेट कीजिए। अब जब हमने बहुत बार इसके बारे में बात करी है, जब हम डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड की बात करते हैं, 3 ऐसे मेजर एलिमेंट्स होते हैं जो हमारी डेप्थ ऑफ फील्ड पे इफेक्ट करते हैं। पहला होता है अपर्चर, दूसरा होता है हमारा फोकल लेंथ, और तीसरा होता है हमारा डिस्टेंस बिटवीन द कैमरा एंड द ऑब्जेक्ट। सो हम अपर्चर की बात करें, अपर्चर क्या है? अपर्चर इज़ द ओपनिंग रिंग। हमारे कैमरे में कितनी लाइट जाएगी, जितना छोटा नंबर होता है उतना बड़ा हमारा अपर्चर होता है। अरेंज द फॉलोइंग एफ नंबर्स इन असेंडिंग ऑर्डर। तो सबसे बड़ा अपर्चर कौन सा होगा? सबसे बड़ा अपर्चर होगा हमारा f2b। देन इससे बड़ा अपर्चर कौन सा होगा? f5.6, देन f8, then it will be f11, then f16. So the right answer would be option number 4, BACED. Moving forward, next question. Question number 84 on your screen. The error in which a null hypothesis is accepted, though it should be rejected, is known as. So the right answer for this question would be type 2 error. Now let us first understand the entire concept of hypothesis testing for your better understanding. In research, when you are conducting a quantitative research, you are studying about some phenomena. Let us take a very simple example. You want to create an association between smoking and lung cancer. It's your tentative guess that smoking leads to lung cancer. How are we going to establish this thing? We are going to test it, and we are going to test it through hypothesis testing. A hypothesis is a tentative guess of the researcher. So you are conducting a study on effects of smoking on cancer. So it's your tentative guess that smoking leads to lung cancer. Other example could be a person has COVID. So it's your tentative guess, and you are going to prove it by doing some test on the patient. So when we do hypothesis testing, we create two hypotheses. Smoking leads to lung cancer. It's a tentative guess. It's a researcher's guess, but it has to be proven. But there can be other possibility as well, which is that smoking does not leads to cancer. So when we test hypothesis, we create two hypotheses. One is null hypothesis, which states that there is no relationship between two variables. So there can be a possibility, until and unless it's not proven that smoking leads to cancer, there can be another possibility that smoking does not lead to cancer. Okay, this is a null hypothesis. And this is researcher hypothesis, which is alternative hypothesis, which is that smoking leads to lung cancer. जब आप hypothesis testing करते हैं, you create two hypotheses. One is null hypothesis, which states that there is no relationship between two variables, and other is alternative hypothesis, which is written as H1, which suggests that there is a relationship. It can be a positive as well as a negative relationship between these two variables. So smoking leads to cancer. अगर हम एक और एग्जाम्पल लेना चाहें, बहुत ही सिंपल एग्जाम्पल लेना चाहें, there is a tentative guess that this person has COVID, but there can be other possibility as well. This person is not suffering from COVID. So In this case, the null hypothesis would be that person does not have COVID. And what will be the alternative hypothesis? That person has COVID. How are we going to prove this? We are going to collect data. We are going to collect blood samples. We are going to collect other samples, and then we are going to do some statistical inferences. Many a times, because of several reasons, there can be errors. In the COVID example, there could be two possibilities. One, that the person is not suffering from COVID. So if it turns out to be true, then our H0, which was null hypothesis kya tha? That there is no relationship between two variables. This person is not suffering from COVID, turns out to be true. Other possibility could be that indeed this person was suffering from COVID and the test is positive. So in this case, we accept alternative hypothesis and reject the null hypothesis, which was that this person is not suffering from COVID. But there could be errors in our calculation because of several reasons. In research hypothesis testing, there are two kinds of testing errors. One is type 1 error and other is type 2 error. Type 1 error, it is also called false positive. It occurs when we had to accept our null hypothesis. जब null hypothesis को accept करना था और हमने इसको reject कर दिया और accept कर लिए अपनी alternative hypothesis. As the name suggests, false positive. इस व्यक्ति को COVID नहीं था. हमारी null hypothesis क्या थी? That this person is not suffering from COVID and the test showed him positive. This is false positive. The false alternative hypothesis is accepted. जबकि हमें alternative hypothesis को reject करना था. It occurs when null hypothesis is rejected, even it is true. So when it turns out that this person actually is not having COVID, but the test is showing that he is positive. So this is false positive. The second case is type 2 error and we call it false negative. In this case, when the person was actually suffering from COVID, but the doctor told him that you are not suffering from COVID. You failed to reject the null hypothesis. What was null hypothesis? Null hypothesis was that he is not suffering from COVID. But actually, it is false. Let us read the question. The error in which the null hypothesis is accepted, though it should be rejected, is known as. So this is a case of false negative. पेशेंट को हमने बोल दिया कि आपको कोविड नहीं है जबकि उसको कोविड था. टाइप 2 फॉल्स नेगेटिव. You fail to reject the null hypothesis. I hope you understood this concept. This is a very important concept and there is dedicated video on our JRF Guru channel. You can go and watch that lecture as well. Dear students, on our application there is a dedicated test on hypothesis testing as well. Every year they are asking at least 1 or 2 questions from this topic. You can also attempt that test. That test is having all the PYQs of last 5 years from this topic. Moving forward, next question on your screen. A press commission was appointed in 1952 under the chairmanship of Justice Rajya Dhaksha. The commission recommended the establishment of press council whose objective should be to safeguard the freedom of press, to safeguard the government interest, to improve methods of recruitment, education and training for the profession by the creation of suitable agencies such as Press Institute, to discourage international reporting, to encourage the growth of sense of responsibility and public service among those engaged in profession of journalism. Dear students, it's a very simple question. If you can just eliminate the negatives, it's a very common sense that if a certain kind of commission has been set up or there is an urgent need to set up some body like press council, the desired objectives are always going to be positive. If you look at this D option, to discourage international reporting, why would any press council or let's say press commission would discourage international reporting? This question has been asked from unit 6. So this year this has been second question from press council and press commission. On our application there is a dedicated test and there are 3 dedicated lectures on press commission and press council. Kindly go through it. Every year you can expect at least 2 to 3 questions from this topic. It is evergreen topic. Press Commission of India, there were 2 press commissions. The first Press Commission of India was established in 1952. Post independence, it was observed that the media, the Indian media was directionless. During colonial times, the press was very nationalistic. Indian press, the major role of press was to mobilize people into this national movement. But post independence, it was found that a lot of press owners, people into media, they were misusing the media for their own purposes. However, after independence, the press faced a lack of clear objectives. Many owners and editors began viewing the press as a tool for their personal interest. A lot of communal tension was being observed. A lot of communal articles were being written in several newspapers. So this press commission was established in 1952 under the chairmanship of these people. You should remember this because this was one of the PYQ. Who among the following were not the member of Press Commission 1? The need of the Press Commission, it was to secure freedom of speech and expression, to curb yellow journalism, to curb sensationalism, to curb malicious attacks on public men, and to curb indecency and vulgarity. This Press Commission had a lot of ripple over effect. A lot of important bodies like RNI, Working Journalist Act, they were all the byproducts of this press commission only, and its impact could be observed till 1970s. After it, in late 1970s, there was another press commission. So पहले अगर आप क्वेश्चन पेपर्स देखेंगे प्रेस कमीशन और प्रेस काउंसिल से बस बेसिक चुनिंदा क्वेश्चन पूछे जाते थे, जैसे कि हु वाज द फर्स्ट चेयरपर्सन, इन विच ईयर इट वाज सेट अप. You will find that in the recent few years they are asking some in-depth questions related to press commission and press council. You should make sure that you are going to book this question which is going to be asked from this topic. Go through those 3 videos and also solve the test on our application. The right answer would be to safeguard the freedom of press. Yes, it was the major objective of Press Commission of India and also Press Council of India. To safeguard the government interest, no, it wasn't the objective. To improve the methods of recruitment, yes. To discourage international reporting, no, this was not, this is wrong. This statement has a negative connotation. To encourage the growth of a sense of responsibility and public service among those engaged in profession of journalism, this is right, because Press Council of India also talks about the duties, ethics and standards of journalism. So the right answer would be A, C and E. Next question on your screen. Sir Charles Metcalfe, acting Governor General, abolished the Bengal Press Regulation Act of 1823 and Bombay Press Regulation Acts of so and so. So dear students, there is a major error in this question as well. We are going to discuss this in detail. This question has also been asked from unit number 6, History of Media Laws. Every year there is a question. Usually they used to ask the chronology of media laws. Sir Charles Metcalfe, he is also referred to as the liberator of Indian press. Why? Because he repealed this licensing regulation by John Adams, which was enacted in 1823. According to licensing regulation, you had to take a license in order to start a press. But the further statement, read this. He abolished the Press Regulation Act of 1823 of John Adams. This is rightly pointed out. And Bombay Press Regulation Acts. If you go through a PDF on eGyan Kosh, there is a reference to these regulations. In 1823, Governor General John Adams introduced the licensing of the press, according to which journalists, they had to take license from the government, which would work as a deterrent. So government is not going to give license to the people who are against the government, who are anti-establishment. His ordinance required a previous license for printing of all matters except commercial matters. ये ई ज्ञान कोश की लाइन है जिससे क्वेश्चन इन्होंने हुबहू उठा लिया है. आगे पढ़िए. Similar regulations were introduced in Bombay in 1825 and 1827. If you also search for it on internet, there were no acts, these were regulations. So there is a major difference between an act and a regulation. An act is passed by parliament On the other hand, regulations can be enacted by local bodies as well. So, but there were no acts, as they have mentioned, Bombay Press Regulation Acts. No, these were just regulations, and you might think sir this is such a trivial addition. क्या फर्क पड़ता है? बहुत ज़्यादा फर्क पड़ता है when we talk about Indian polity. These things, regulation, acts, ordinance, these are very sensitive vocabularies in law. So if you go on ChatGPT, it might create some hallucinations. But in reality, there were no acts. These were also mere regulations, like local body regulating these rules on local press. So the right answer as per E-Gyan Kosh would be 1825 and 1827. So B and D would be the right options. B and D. Okay. Moving forward, question number 87. What is typecasting in script writing? Casting people who are strong characters, casting people who are weak characters, casting different types of characters, casting people who look like the required character. So dear students, when we talk about typecasting, in the world of filmmaking and acting, it has a lot of negative connotations for the actors. In the simple terms, जब एक एक्टर एक पर्टिकुलर रोल के लिए टाइप कास्ट हो जाता है, उसका मतलब होता है कि उसको उसी तरह के रोल्स मिलते हैं. In 1960s and 70s, this very famous actor Iftikhar, he played more than 50 films. He was casted just as police inspector. This phenomena of typecasting can also be observed in current times. So you will find many actors like Nawazuddin Siddiqui. He also once got typecasted in a lot of gangster roles. Similarly, actors like Rajpal Yadav, he has also complained a lot of times that he is only casted in comic roles and so on. So you can tell me in the comment box certain examples of actors who are great actors, but usually they get typecasted in a certain type of role. So the right answer of this question would be like this option number 4 is the best suitable option, casting people who look like the required character. But remember this thing, that this phenomena of typecasting, it is actually a negative thing. Moving forward, next question on your screen: which of the following are not Japanese film directors? Kenzai Misoguchi, Kim Ji-woon, Ang Lee, Akira Kurosawa, Hiroshi Inagaki. So among the following, one of the greatest filmmaker is Akira Kurosawa. His film Rashomon, regarded as one of the greatest films ever made. There has been another PYQ from his film Rashomon. He's a legendary Japanese director, internationally acclaimed, directed Rashomon, Seven Samurai. He influenced global filmmakers like Steven Spielberg also. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential filmmakers in the history of cinema. So he's a Japanese director. Next, Kenji Mizoguchi, one of the greatest filmmakers of 20th century. He, along with Akira Kurosawa, is seen as representative of golden age of Japanese cinema. The landmark films include The Life of Oharu and Ugitsu. Then he is also a Japanese filmmaker. Hiroshi Inagaki, he is known for a very interesting trilogy, which is the Samurai trilogy. He is also a Japanese filmmaker. Then Ang Lee, he is not a Japanese filmmaker. You must have seen this very enjoyable, very interesting film, Life of Pi, and also Academy Award winner film Brokeback Mountain. So he's a Taiwanese American director. Then Kim Ji-woon, he's a contemporary film director. Some of his famous films includes A Tale of Two Sisters, I Saw the Devil. He is famous for making horror films. So the right answer would be option number B and C. Question number 89 on your screen. The view in philosophy and psychology that we learn through experience and that we are born with an empty slate, tabula rasa, is known as. So dear students, first of all, let us understand this concept of tabula rasa. This concept of tabula rasa suggests that when we are born, जब हम पैदा होते हैं, we are like an empty slate. We are just like an empty slate. We learn everything from observation. आप इस चीज़ को जर्नलिज्म में भी अप्लाई कर सकते हैं. When a journalist is covering a crime beat, the person also should have a clean slate. He or she shouldn't be having any kind of preconceived bias regarding any person or any community. Empiricism, this philosophy was introduced by John Locke, and there were many other people who were associated with the idea of empiricism. It asserts that all knowledge come from experience or sensory perception. When we are born, we are empty slate. For example, we only get to know that the fire, it can burn us. When we bring our finger in front of fire, there is a reflex action. We pull back our hand. So empiricism is the philosophy that all knowledge originates in experience and observation. John Locke proposed the idea of tabula rasa, that individuals are born without built-in mental concept. Empiricism laid the foundation for modern science. In research also we apply this phenomena of empiricism. When we conduct quantitative research, we observe facts, we validate our hypothesis through data, then we prove it. So it insists that truth should be verified by evidence, not just by claimed by authority or logic. Let us also look at other options as well. On the other hand, realism suggests that reality exists already. Researcher has to observe it. So it does not talk about the idea of tabula rasa. Empathy is not any kind of philosophy. It is a concept where we feel or we also go through the same emotions of other people. So the right answer would be empiricism. The last question for the day. Arrange the following steps in a sequential order, beginning with the first step in a cluster analysis. Dear students, this question might be little overwhelming for all of you because this is pure data science. This question actually has been asked from data science, but let us address it. Let us at least try to make sense of it. Also, there is an anomaly in this question which we are going to discuss in the due course. Let us first understand what is the basic concept of cluster analysis. For the sake of our better understanding, let us take a very simple example. Okay, cluster analysis is a technique used in statistics and data science to group similar items together. It can be very beneficial, useful for marketer in if you look at marketing communication in context of media research. So हम क्या करते हैं, वो वेरिएबल्स या वो डेटा पॉइंट्स जिनके सिमिलर कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स होते हैं, हम उनका एक क्लस्टर बना देते हैं. थ्रू एल्गोरिथम्स, थ्रू सॉफ्टवेयर्स, वी ट्राई टू क्रिएट क्लस्टर्स ऑफ द आइटम्स और द डेटा सेट्स और द वेरिएबल्स विच शोज सिमिलर कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स. फर्ज कीजिए at Indian Mass Communication, I want to create clusters of my students according to their watching habits. So मैं cluster create कर सकता हूँ कि those all the students who watch my videos or who are active on my application during the night time, the people who are night crawlers, and all the students who watch the videos in daytime. This could be a kind of cluster. Other could be in context of time, the people who watch my videos, let's say for more than 6 hours a day, they can be a part of one cluster. The students who watch my videos for less than 2 hours a day, that can also be a part of cluster. It can help you find natural groupings in the data. It can create meaning in humongous amount of data. For any brand, they can cluster data. You can code them. So people who are budget shoppers, who are only buying things which are economical, there can be premium buyers, there can be occasional shoppers. So cluster analysis identifies homogeneous subgroups. Now if you look at the question, try to create meaning out of it. Arrange the following steps in a sequential order, beginning with the first step in a cluster analysis. If you go through the sequence of the statements given in the question, you will find that the statements are not coherent. What do I mean by it? I mean to say that they have skipped certain very important steps in this chronology, and they have been picked very randomly, and it is very technical for mass communication journalism students. It is not get overwhelmed. First try to understand what are the basic steps of cluster analysis, and then let's create sense out of whatever we are given in this question. Cluster analysis is a technique used in statistics and data science to group similar items together. So you have tremendous amount of data, but you want to create sense out of it. You can group it. So data sets, or let's say people who reveals similar characteristics, who are homogeneous in certain way, they are grouped together through algorithms. You don't do it manually, you do it through algorithms. You can group customers based on their spending habits. You can group the app users based on their scrolling habits. It can be used very creatively. What is the basic step of cluster analysis? First, you define the objective. What exactly is the objective behind this cluster analysis? You want to increase your sales, or you want to do a preliminary research on a product, whether it deems to be fit for this particular market. Then you collect relevant variables. The relevant variables should match your desired objectives. So you are conducting a research on the buying behavior of your customers, whether they are buying, whether they are premium buyers, whether they are budget buyers. So the variable will be the amount of money spent on your product by those consumers. Then you collect and clean data. Data cleaning is very important. There will be humongous amount of data, so you need to clean it. You need to organize it in a manner that it can be inserted, or let's say it can be uploaded on the software. Then standardize data. So all the data, let's say if you are collecting data of all the customers, it should have a standardized unit. It should be in rupees, either it should be in dollars, either it should be in pounds. Then choosing a clustering method. There are several methods of clustering. You can use distribution based clustering, you can use density based clustering, you can either use hierarchical methods. Then after choosing a clustering method, you create a correlation matrix to measure similarity and distance. What is a correlation matrix? This is done through correlation matrix. So आप यहाँ पे एक डेटा सेट रख सकते हैं कि कितने लोग 20,000 रुपये तक खर्च करते हैं. यहाँ पे आप रख सकते हैं कितने लोग हैं जो 40,000 रुपये तक खर्च करते हैं. So now points around this data set, they are a part of a cluster, okay? And you also try to measure the distance between them. So this might be showing similar characteristics to this group, but it has a lot of distance in the data set. Then the seventh step is that you apply a clustering algorithm to conduct clustering analysis. Softwares like R, Python and other softwares are used. So you run an algorithm, interpret clusters, validate clusters and use insights for action. Now dear students, this was the entire process of cluster analysis. So this entire sequence of cluster analysis by the examiner is not truly reflective of the right steps in cluster analysis. The right steps are laid down here. So let's try to make sense out of this question as well, what they have asked. If so, the first step according to this question would be, if certain variables have negative sum of correlations in correlation matrix, reflect the variables to get maximum sum of positive correlation. We would want that in a cluster, in order to make a cluster, the variable should show positive correlation. Then only it is going to be part of a cluster. Then the next step would be find out highest correlation in correlation matrix, the two variables involved from the nucleus of the first cluster. After you have run those algorithms, you have cleaned the data, you have chosen your variables, find out the variables which are showing the maximum correlation between each other. So let's say you have chosen this as a data set, that customers who are spending 15,000 rupees annually on your brand. So you find that these two data points, they are the closest. Okay, these two are also closest, so they can be a part of a cluster. Then the next step would be look for those variables that correlate with said two variables and include them in a cluster. So you created this midpoint. Let's say this was 15,000 rupees average customer is spending. You found that A and B were closest to this. So A was spending near about 13,000, B was spending 16,000. Then you found that yes, these two clusters, these two data points are also closer to them. So they are forming a cluster. Then the next step would be you are going to find the second cluster, nucleus of the second cluster, and find the data points which are near to this nucleus. Then the last step would be proceed on similar lines for search of the third cluster and so on. So once you have created this cluster, let's say you were looking at the consumers or the people who were spending near about 15,000 on your brand, these were budget consumers. Then you found another group of people who were spending, let's say, 25,000, and so on. You are going to replicate this for forming other clusters. So the right sequence would be C, D, B, E and A. Okay. So dear students, I hope you learned something new. If you found this video lecture helpful, kindly like this video. It will help us with algorithm, and we are also going to upload this PDF on our application. Take care. Bye bye.